Welcome, everyone. I'm Laura DeFranco, the CEO of Brave Healer Productions, where we are helping the world experience what's possible. And here today to help me with that mission are some of the authors of one of our newest books. This book is called Gifts of Wisdom, Practices for Healing and Empowerment. And I'm going to say a huge shout out thank you to our lead author, David McLeod, first, before I introduce you to these authors. David, we wouldn't be here without you and your big vision and mission for this book. It's been really incredible, and I'm super honored to be on this journey with you. The stellar cast of authors that you brought around you to speak about wisdom, it's phenomenal, you guys, and you're about to hear some of it today. I have Jennifer Sproul with me. She's the founder of Gracing Agefully, whose mission is to change the culture of aging, and she is doing that. McCall May is the founder of Lady May Impressions, a renegade artist. She weaves her experiences and wisdom into her art to heal and bring awareness to mental health. And Star Studanovic is an author, Reiki master, certified yoga teacher, vibrational sound practitioner, and calligrapher. I love it. I can't wait to talk to you gals today. Jennifer, you're going to start the party off. Tell me a little bit about the why behind this chapter on wisdom for you.
Well, thank you, Laura, and thank you to my co-authors that are here, and also to David McLeod for the opportunity to participate in this book. Mine is chapter 8, titled The Unexpected Gift of Infertility. And then the subtitle, Know Your Backstory, Heal Your Life. The why behind this, I think, only came through as I was writing it. So when I heard about the gifts of wisdom, or what we had kind of called elder wisdom for a while, I thought, that's my jam. You know, I'm changing the culture of aging. I need to be in this. I need to teach people something. And I thought about what part of my life did I want to share the lesson. And so infertility, which I experienced 30 years ago, was a part that changed my path so dramatically, because I don't have children. I wasn't married. I was 37. But I think what I didn't realize is that in telling the story, in really separating myself from the story by 30 years and writing it, I broke open. So I didn't even know that was going to be why I was writing it. But as I wrote it, things came through, lessons came through that I had learned partially, but really didn't learn them fully until I wrote the story. So it's kind of a backwards way to approach it, but that in turn became the practice and the meaning behind the subtitle, which is Know Your Backstory, Heal Your Life. Because telling this story, facing shame, facing feelings that I had that I only revealed to myself and now to the world in this story, broke me open and began a healing process that I hadn't even gone through when I experienced it 30 years ago. So
it takes a little bit of courage to be in the process, figure this out, and then still decide to publish it. So I am super grateful that you're talking about this, because you haven't been the only one to talk about something like this in the writing process. This excites me because it's transformational, but I'd love for you to talk about, you got into the middle of it, you looked at your piece and you realized, like, how did you have the courage then to put your heart and soul on the page? This is not for the faint of heart.
Fortunately, I have a practice of morning pages, which has been very transformational for me. And morning pages is journaling first thing in the morning, and just, I call it flushing the toilet. I called that in another chapter that I wrote, which is just taking the thoughts that are swirling around in my head and putting them on the page. And it's only after I do that, which is somewhat of an unconscious process, can I then go in and read what I was thinking. So it's having been in that practice then allowed me to get comfortable with revealing the things that I was thinking, but I wasn't willing to even face myself until they came out on the page. So, to your question, as I wrote it, I was able to write it on the page because I'd had that practice. At the same time, I'm still going through, oh my God, I can't believe people are going to read this. So it's a courage that keeps on giving or keeps on coming. And really that is one of the gifts, I think, of all of our stories, is that we start to realize that with age, all of these challenges that we face, number one, become lessons that heal us. And number two, they don't stop teaching us at the moment that they happen. It's not ever over. So I'm still nervous about the world reading this, and I still feel a little bit of that shame, but I've come closer by sharing it with a few people and then eventually the world.
Well, it is brave and bold and beautiful and amazing. And I got to know you better as a result, and that's a gift. So, thank you. Thanks for saying yes to this one and for not quitting in the middle of that. And thank you for being here today to share.
And thank you for building the platform that we can all do this. That has changed my life.
Mm, my pleasure. You guys, you're already giving me goosebumps. Thank you. Star, let's hear from you. Tell us a little bit about the why behind your chapter.
Okay, my name is Star Studanovic, chapter 21, When You're Shattered, and about creating magic and wonder from the pieces that are left. That's not the exact subtitle, but that's the feeling behind it. And you taught me to be vulnerable in my writing, and that's really hard. So I thought, what is the absolute worst thing that ever happened to me, and how did I feel? And what could someone maybe gain from finding out how I put the pieces back together? So it required, like she said, revisiting those emotions, revisiting that event, and what was the biggest part that allowed me to get through it. How I got through it then isn't how I would do it now. I would do it in a little bit healthier way. It was a time in my life I seriously considered suicide. And I don't want anyone to get to that point and not think that that's a short-term decision for a long-term problem. And that you don't have to live there. You can move through it, because no matter what we do in our lives, things change. Whether we make that happen or whether circumstances or environment makes that happen. But it's about telling someone, yeah, you really do have the power. Get the help you need, do what you need to do, figure out what these pieces are, and glue them back together. And how you do that is actually more important than the lesson itself.
I love that you're going to help continue this conversation we started with Jennifer. And so here's my moment of awareness in what you're saying about it. You know, how I would deal with it today is different than how I dealt with it back in the past. So here you are writing this chapter, maybe reliving some of the moments, some of the feels, some of the emotions, yet you are a new warrior woman writing this chapter. You are a different soul. And so were you past it enough so that wasn't re-traumatizing? Tell, you know, because that is not what we want to do to people, but I just want to hear about the process.
The process was revisiting my trauma, but doing it in a different way, doing it with kindness, with meditation, with yoga, with journaling, like Jeanette said. I'm a different person now. How did I get there? What did I do to put that back together? That might be of interest to someone. It was a traumatic event to me. It would be a different trauma for them. But what do you do with it? Do you sit with it and feel it and go through it, or you try to stuff it on a shelf and forget about it, which will make it appear later, whether you like it or not? And if anything, that's probably the biggest lesson, because yes, feel it, feel every single emotion, go through it and deal with it, and then put yourself back together. And here's some tools on how to do that. I wish I'd had those tools.
No kidding.
Jeanette probably feels the same way.
Yeah, Jennifer, probably all of us feel the
Yeah.
same way. Oh
Amen.
my gosh, you guys. So pausing just to let the listeners know something. You know, you're going to get these real life stories, and in those words, there's healing for you. There was healing for the authors, as you're hearing. And then they're stepping up as master teachers. So what happens in the second pieces of these chapters that Star is hitting on right now is that, you know, maybe this offer of a practice, maybe this experience for you will be part of what helps you through one of your moments. And I'm just so proud of all of you for taking what was maybe the worst time of your life and creating healing, creating purpose for people, creating a path where there was absolutely none before that. You all are such badasses. And I love you for that so much. Star, what else do you want to tell us about that path for you? Any last message about that?
I guess the biggest message is you will get through it. Choose how you're going to do that. Choose what has meaning for you. But above all, find connection, not only with yourself, but with your environment, with whatever you call your higher power, if you have one, and with your community. Don't do it alone.
Yeah, really, really important. Okay, so thank you, Star. Again, you're back for another one of these collaborations, and I appreciate that you're back for this. And the writing is spectacular, and I thank you for being here.
Thank you, Laura. And thank you for weaving all of this together. You're a master.
Nicole might be sitting and kind of smiling to herself about how the universe puts these groups together because I know a little bit about Nicole and her story, but I won't spoil it. What was the why behind this chapter for you, Nicole?
Oh, well, there were a few. So I'm Nicole May. My chapter is called It Wasn't Your Fault, a preface to possibly positive life for trauma survivors. And there were a few things. So Laura does know a little bit about my backstory. And one of the things that comes through in almost everything is I lost a child to suicide at the age of 15. He was the second teenager that we lost in my family, and it could have been me because I had already had a lot of trauma, and I did attempt when I was a teenager as well. And at the time that this came out, my other child was graduating high school and leaving the nest, and I was in this weird space of like, I'm not the maiden or the mother. I'm transitioning to the crone now. And that came through in another project I was working on where I had poems for the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And it was called Elder Wisdom before it was Gifts of Wisdom. And so I was like, oh, this is okay. Maybe I can contribute to this. And what I wanted initially was to give my grandmother's wisdom, which is wisdom that helped save my life, right? Several times over, her voice in my head, saving my life. But as many of you know, or may have heard me say in other interviews with Laura, these chapters sort of take on their own life. And you start to dig into memories and experiences that maybe, yeah, you put on the shelf and they're coming back now. But ultimately that's the real reason why I felt like, okay, I'm in this transitionary phase. I'd like to give people some of that grandmother wisdom that I received from my grandmother. And I'm always very mindful to give people tools to help them in their darkest moments so that hopefully we can reduce the amount of suicidal attempts.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you for writing again. And I loved the pieces about your grandmother so much. They were helping me remember my grandmother. And that was a gift. And you're also you're giving me this interesting visual right now of the vase you put on the shelf and it's been gathering dust, and you're going to gently take it down again to clean it off and admire it, right? And so these pieces in your newest story feel to me like, oh, you're going to clean that one off and see what gift it has for you next. And I'm just going to repeat myself. I appreciate you all for being willing to take that down and clean it off, right? And to look at it again, and to be brave enough to do that. Nicole, you bring the reader into their feels, into a scene of the voices, the dialogue, the voices. What do you think, if you had to sum it up? I know it's hard, but what would be that one grandmother message that she might have for all of us? What do you think that is?
Ooh, my grandmother was huge on retraining your mind to be positive, and not just think positive and magically everything falls into place, right? She wanted positivity with intention. That means you think it, you pay attention to it, you take action towards it. And as long as you make the choice, like Star was saying, right? Everything is a choice. They may not be choices you like, as she would have told me, but they are choices and you have to make them, So if you make them with intention and with an eye towards the positive, anything can become possible, and anyone can achieve anything that they really put their heart and soul into, was the message that she gave me, that I would like everyone else to have.
It's a powerful message. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying yes to this and for being here today to share.
And thank you. And thanks for the suggestion to go first person. That was a whole extra level of brave that I did. And it really did shape things in a different way, and actually helped me process things in a different way.
Thank you for remembering that. And thank you for accepting that suggestion. Sometimes I remember myself early in my writing days not accepting suggestions from people because I had so much resistance to how it was written and I liked it that way. But when I got feedback one time on a poem of mine, it was just a real casual, hey, Laura, what if you did this in this voice, right, instead? And I rewrote the entire poem and it transformed me. And so when I saw yours, I'm like, ooh, should I give her that? Am I going to be brave enough to give her that feedback? Like how, and you're so awesome in terms of like open and aware. And so thank you for talking about that. I think it's important for a lot of people to understand those pieces of their writing. Okay, Star, I'm going to start with you on this one. And it's really one of my favorite questions and topics, but the experts and authors in this community, we all have different ways we practice awareness. We've been talking about all these golden nuggets of it so far with all three of you. We practice awareness and connection differently, each one of us. I think that is one of the ways we take experiences and they turn to wisdom, these awareness practices. So I wondered if you would share about one of your personal practices. If I was going to look in your window during the day, how would you be connecting?
How about we share one?
Yeah, that's what I'm asking for.
Okay. I invite you to shut your eyes. It's very simple. Sometimes we feel very disconnected from both ourselves and everything around us. So I'm going to have you use your imagination. Place your feet firmly on the floor, enough that you can roll the weight between the ball of the foot and the heel and become firmly rooted. Take your left hand and put it on your belly, your dantian, which is right below your belly button. And that's where you're going to take your breath. Soften. Allow your belly to soften and allow your shoulders to soften. Simply take the breath in and allow it to escape easily. Take your right hand and put it on your heart. Everyone breathes. Everyone has a heartbeat. Breath is connection. Heartbeat pumps that connection throughout your body and your soul and your mind. but your breath extends it out to everyone and everything around you. Visualize each breath, the universe giving you in what you need right now. Feel your heartbeat circulate that. Takes only 22 seconds for your blood to completely circulate throughout your entire body. So as you have your hand on your heart, you're feeling that whole energy permeate your being. Take another deep breath in. And as you exhale, give gratitude for that and share that with the universe and all of the people on this planet. What you need may be what someone else needs too. What you're doing is sharing it. You have no idea who that person is. But all of us breathe. All of us have a heartbeat. We are all connected, whether we like it or not. That's just a fact of being. By placing your feet firmly on the ground, nicer if you're walking barefoot outside, but you can do this anywhere. You're rooted. You belong here. This is your home. This is your earth. And we have the beauty and the honor of sharing it with all living beings. So take one more deep breath. Hold it at the top. Surrender with your exhale and give gratitude.
Thank you,
Take a
my dear.
moment for what that feels like and open your eyes.
I did not expect the teaching. Thank you. I misunderstood your question about what we were sharing, but thank you for that huge, huge gift. I think I needed that this morning. Yeah, beautiful. There's a taste, you guys, of how our authors are stepping up in the book to give you some experiences. And that's a world-changing one right there, Star. Thank you. Nicole, when you think about your awareness practices, your way of connecting, I love that Star started us off with breath, with gratitude, right? And I would imagine everybody in this Zoom room has a piece of those practices in their day. Yeah, I gotten to know my brave healers a little bit in terms of what they do to keep themselves floating. What else would we find you doing?
Gratitude's a big thing. I actually created a journal for myself, and then I allowed, I put it out there to the world. But and it has three things you're grateful for every day, three things you love about yourself, and some self-compassion reflection. So I have a really harsh inner critic, despite everything my grandmother taught me. So what I do is I write to myself as if I'm my best friend, right? So I pretend like all the things I'm dealing with are something my best friend is going through, and I write down what I would say to her, and then I reread it to myself.
Mm.
But at any given point in time, I use writing and creative writing or free writing or automatic writing as a method to help me process any number of things. If I'm stuck, I will sit down with a pen and paper.
I love this one because, I'm a journaling fan myself. I think that's another thing we all probably share. So is that skill and tool and modality. And it is so healing. And I think out of all these different versions, this might be the first time I've heard that. I've heard, speak to yourself like you would a small child or your best friend, but I've never written the letter like that. Like actually taken the time to not just think about it and talk to myself nice, but to actually write out the whole message. So I love this so much. And then reading it out loud.
Yes,
Yes.
I found that was key. I found it
Yeah.
was key. And I needed the journal because I was really, really bad at doing this for myself. I just was really bad at it. So I created the book so I would like remind myself to do it.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. I think a lot of the things we're writing, the messages we're speaking, I always, when I write a little post on Facebook or something, and I've got something brewing, and I'm saying things in the post, they're always to me. They're not, like it's always talking to myself, right? And I love it when people comment and they were a little called out by it, thinking that I'm talking about them. And I'm like, y'all, I'm just talking to me. Like if I called you out, it wasn't on purpose, But when you do that, of course you're calling out all your friends too, like who have those same problems,
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So Jennifer, how about for you?
I think Star has something she
Dar,
wants.
did you want to add? Sorry.
Just a quick aside, I love your posts, and I also go into a cleaning frenzy. So that
Uh-huh.
made me laugh.
Cleaning frenzy.
Yes, when I'm upset, when I have something to deal with, my specialty is closets.
Hey, we could
So
use you
it
over
was
it.
identifying with what everything that Laura said. It's like, yes, yes, yeah.
Well, one of my favorite things is the feng shui of cleaning. So when I got into the very good habit of cleaning when I was feeling a little riled up, my house was better for it too. So that was a good combo. All right, Jennifer, give us your one of your, I know you have many. What's one of your practices of awareness or connection?
So I was going to actually talk about the next step of journaling that is really a practice that has come to me recently. And it is what I wrote about here, which is writing the story. And I was given a couple of different opportunities to write a story as if it were not me and take the character to the end that I would like.
Mm.
Uh, so that was a very revealing and healing practice in itself, because I made the character who was suffering with whatever it was that I was suffering, I I put the character as another person through the process of learning and finding herself. And I was going to say too that I think one of the common threads of all of these chapters is every author comes back down to the same thing, that inside each of us is not only a unique story that got us here, but it is a common story inside of who we are and our gift to the world if we can find it. So writing a story about a character who was suffering from things that I have suffered from and taking it to an heroic end, even if it's a fantasy, was it just opened up vistas for me that why not? It's very easy for me to be in fear mode and protection mode and try to stay small and not take it out there. But it's just as easy, as Star had said, it's just as easy to make the choice that, hey, it could be a miraculous end of that story.
Mhm.
And so that for me has been this writing these sort of hero journey stories that are really about myself has been an incredible gift.
So there's healing alchemy in what you're talking about, and you're making me think of some moments in our John F. Barnes myofascial release courses, and as a physical therapist in those specific courses, and this is advanced somatic work. This is not for beginners, but I remember you're giving me a little flash of one of those ballrooms where we were paired up and helping each other heal. And there was always an example of somebody who had been through severe trauma and they're unwinding and working it out on the table with the help of their therapist. And it's hands-on and it's dialogue. But the point being that our teacher would help the student do exactly what you just said. And so at that, not shutting down the unwinding, but waiting until they were ready for a different ending.
Right.
And then allowing them to be in a process where they could create it for themselves. And I think there's cellular change at that point. I think this is no small potatoes thing you're talking about. You can do it in writing, and you can do it even at these other levels, and you can change the trauma in your system as you're doing that.
Mhm.
So, you know, sometimes it's too difficult to do on your own. And so, you know, so sometimes you're going to need some expert guides to take you through to the next level if you find yourself stuck over and over again. You can tell you got me started on that one, huh?
Well, can I just say one more thing? One thing I've noticed about our group when we would get together, and all of the other groups that I'm involved in, is we each go through a healing through the other members of the group.
Mhm.
So yes, sometimes we need a specific guide, but very often it's just being conscious of listening to what everyone else is talking about, and you yourself go through that healing process. So it's a remarkable thing, this whole idea of us all talking to each other on a regular basis.
It is quite remarkable. All right, I have a big one for all of you to finish up today. Nicole, I'm going to start with you. And I know it's going to be tough to pick one, but I am going to challenge you to do that. When you think of the wisdom you've acquired over all your many years, what do you think was that one most powerful nugget for you and your life?
Oh my goodness, one, just one.
I know there are
Gosh.
many.
Oh, that's a big one.
What's the one
Um,
that comes to you? And really thinking of our listeners today, you know, that message, that one thing that you're still practicing because it happened whenever it happened.
so the one thing I have always practiced, and it was very challenging. I almost stopped practicing it when I was in my grief, when I lost my child, but I was in therapy and my therapist gave me the assignment to do it again. And I was really mad, but it was the most powerful thing that I did to help me move forward. And that was practicing gratitude. And just a quick note, when I did not feel like I could be, when you lose a child and go through any other massive trauma, right? That was just the worst thing that ever happened to me. But that doesn't mean that somebody else doesn't have something else traumatic happen to them. That's their worst thing, right? And it felt like I would never smile or laugh again or feel joy again. And I was really bitter and resentful to get the assignment because I had quit doing it on my own. And this was part of who I was for so long. And I had to start, just for those of you out there who might be like, no way can I do this assignment. I had to start with more like glimmers or more universal things. Like I was grateful that the sun was shining, right? I was grateful for the stars and the moon. I was grateful for my pets. I was grateful for the child that was still with me. I had to start really like with so basic things. And it was hard. It was work. In the beginning, when you're in that really dark place, it can be work. Like, and it doesn't have to be huge. It can be, that person smiled at me today and I'm grateful for it, because that's what I got, right? So if I had to tell you one thing, I would say that's the one thing that I almost discarded. And thankfully, and I am grateful that my therapist did kind of push me to do that again, because it really was needed. And so that would be one of the things I would suggest.
That's a big one. And you're brave for starting again.
Thank you.
And really just you're brave for keeping trying and noticing the moon, right? And just allowing your brain to go somewhere else. So appreciate you sharing about that at that level. Jennifer, how about you for this one? You know, you've acquired a piece of wisdom or two in your time. What's the one nugget, you know, that you want people to know about?
There are so many. And I think, and especially with Gracing Agefully wanting to change the culture of aging, I think I really want people, as they get older, to look forward to it because these lessons and these challenges that while we're going through them just seem like, why is God doing this to me? Why, why is this happening to me? And so the biggest change for me was realizing that this isn't about what's happening to me. This is about what's happening for me and really owning that. So really understanding that it's all in the way that I perceive whatever is going on and how I process it and how I get to the next step. And I can honestly say that I've gotten to the point now where I really am grateful for the challenges. And I'm on the verge of my 70th birthday, and I feel like it is truly a new beginning. It's like I'm being born again, and every day I'm letting go of what I've already learned and what the past meant that kept me small. And I'm coming in as a new person now.
Yes, another really big deal thing to think about and difficult to do. Everything is for me, everything. Like it really, that's along the lines of what Nicole was saying about her gratitude that she stopped and then started again. Like it's tough in the toughest moments to go, okay, how is this for me, people? Like, it gets frustrating a little bit, but I'm with you, gals. I'm with you. This is important. All right, Star, you're going to close us out today. Tell us that one nugget for you.
Be able to look in the mirror and look at yourself with kindness. So many times we look in the mirror and all we see are the flaws, and we look at the physical. We aren't looking into our own eyes and knowing that there's something else in there. Not being critical, you matter, you're enough, you're meant to be here, and telling yourself that, because so many times we don't believe it. Like you have all said, you can do that to your best friend. Well, what about doing that for yourself? And it's very powerful to look right in your own eyes in the mirror and welcome what you see and know that it matters and that you matter and that you're enough.
Big, big stuff there. Sometimes feels impossible, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Really, really amazing. So, to all of you today, thank you so much for what you do in the world. Thank you for being here to share it with everyone. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you, Star, and thank you, Nicole.
Thank all of you. And thank you to those who are listening to us.
And speaking of those who are listening, maybe you heard something today that gave you the goosebumps. Maybe you've got a question. Maybe you want to carry on this juicy conversation. Holy moly, this is a good one. This is way more than a book. This is a very generous community. And I have all of our authors hooked up with their websites down below. They're waiting for you to reach out. They're there for some support, to answer a question, to continue the conversation. These women have a lot of powerful things going on. So please go explore. And of course, you're all also invited to our book launch party. We're going to be having that on October 10th for Gifts of Wisdom. I have the Zoom information down below. And you should probably hop over to Amazon and grab your copy of this gorgeous book, y'all. Lastly, everyone, remember, your words change the world when you're brave enough to share them. So it is time to be brave. See you next time, everyone.